For half a century, it's been the institution to train judges for the whole nation. A stately but easily overlooked building on the UNR campus. A resource for the American judicial system and one of Reno's best ambassadors to the world. This is a conversation about the National Judicial College. The National Judicial College here in Reno observes a couple of milestones this fall. It turns 50 years old, and it is losing the president who has served a quarter of this half-century history. President William Dressel is our guest. Bill, thank you very much for being with us.
Brent, it's my pleasure, and especially to be able to talk about my favorite subject, the National Judicial College.
Well, you've been an evangelist for the college for a while, and this gives us a good opportunity because I think most people have heard of it. We may have run into you around town, but we really have no idea of what it is and what it does. How did it start, and what does it do?
It's really interesting. Back in about 1960-61, there was this committee formed, and Justice William Brennan of the U.S. Supreme Court initially chaired it, and it was they had one objective, and that was to determine, was there such a thing as a judicial profession? Everybody said it's a legal profession doing something differently, and the overwhelming response they got was, no, this is a separate profession. It takes different skills, takes different attitudes. And then at that time, Justice Tom C. Clark took over for Brennan, and the decision was to create the National Judicial College with the mission to educate judges, something that no one had ever thought about before.
And I had not thought before we had talked before that a lot of judges get into their position with no formal training.
No. So most judges do have a law degree. There is a section of the judiciary who are like the people's judges that don't have law degrees, but the vast majority do. And everyone assumed, okay, you've got a law degree and you know the legal field, so you can become a judge. Back in the 50s and early 60s, it kind of worked because the average judge was in his or her 50s, and they had been doing a number of things in the legal profession. They were involved in their communities, and they were looking for something else. So they came with a perspective. But we found from talking to those folks, this commission talking to those folks, that they didn't feel prepared for the job.
Well, I can understand why. You're basically the king of a small country. You learn how to get by in your own courtroom, but you've never had a college course in public affairs or public administration.
No. And what this committee did was they then said, okay, what are the subjects that a person who's going to become a judge needs that's different from what's out there? And one aside was when they created the college, they were told nobody's going to come because a person who's a judge would not want to be known they had to go to be educated. They would be thought, oh, I know everything. But no, they decided, and they created the college, as I said. The first session was held at the University of Colorado School of Law in 1963. And they were hoping they could get, say, about 60, 80 judges interested in it. They had over 400 apply.
Wow.
And they had to cut it down. And fortunately, for the future of the college, one of those judges came from Reno, Nevada, a judge by the name of Peter Craven. And so he went to that first session. Afterwards, they debriefed it, and Justice Clark said, we don't know where we're going to go with this in the future. We got this overwhelming need, and it's Thomas Craven. I have a good friend named Peter Craven, so I apologize to Judge Craven's relatives. So Judge Tom Craven came back. He had a friend, Fran Breen, who was head of the Fleischman Foundation, and he said, here's an opportunity for the state of Nevada to step up. They need somebody to support this college. And the board of Fleischman said, you bet, we'll do it. As it happens, and once again, strange story, there was a program in Elko, of all places. And so Judge Tom Breen drove over to Elko, met Justice Tom C. Clark of the U.S. Supreme Court, and said, will you come back to Reno with me? He said, I think I have an entity that wants to make this an institution, the Judicial College. So they did. And the Fleischman Foundation said, yes, we will support it. They got together with the university here, and the university had this plot of land up north. It was north of the old football field. There was nothing there, and they said, we would make this land available to build this college. And Fleischman then said, great, and they gave the university a couple grants they were going. The regents weren't dumb. They knew if they worked with Fleischman, they would get the money they wanted, which they did. We got the land, Fleischman gave us the money, and the rest is history. The National Judicial College was built on the campus. We are now a 501c3 entity. We love being on the campus of the university. We love being in Reno. It offers so many advantages to us.
And how do you get the money to keep it operating these days?
Good question. Our revenue comes from a variety of resources. We took a clue from a lot of nonprofits. And nonprofits in the 90s, they knew survival was going to be tough. We get tuition from the judges who attend some of our courses. The states pay for them to come here. That's one source of revenue. We also, thanks to Senators Harry Reid and Ensign and the others and the members of Congress, we were able to get some congressional grants to put on what I think are terrific programs I can tell you about in a little bit. The state of Nevada, because of the governors, Governor Callahan was a member of our original board. And he wanted to see, and anybody who knew Mike Callahan knew if he believed in something, it was going to be supported.
Yes.
He became a good friend of Florence Murray, interesting individual in the history of this country and the college. She was one of the first women judges in the state of Rhode Island. She was the first woman Chief Justice of any state. She was chair of our board. And so they started seeing what could the state of Nevada do for us. When Richard Bryan was governor, he created a trust fund, and we got the interest off that trust fund to help us get funding, create new programs, in other words, stay relevant. Kenny Gwynn called me up and said, Bill, can you come down? And I love Kenny Gwynn. There's not anybody in this state that doesn't love that man for great reasons. He said, I've got to do away with the trust funds. We got to meet the budget. And I said, would you put us in the governor's budget? He says, absolutely. And once again, Gibbons went to him, Sandoval, the same thing. So we've stayed in the governor's budget and the legislature. People from time to time have said, why should the state be this time when they're having difficulties fund you? And we said, because the money you give us, we return over 10 times.
Really?
Yeah, we do. And because we use it to get other grants, we use it to seed programs. So I can go into somebody and say, look, I've got a couple grand for this program. Will you match it? Much the same that nonprofits do. They'll go to someone and say, someone is interested in it, we don't have enough money to do it. And so the money from the state of Nevada allows us to. The small business program at UNR, their School of Business, did an analysis, and we have a multi-million-dollar impact on the state of Nevada.
That's tremendous. Back in the late 80s, the National Judicial College hired basically a professional movie maker to do a little video to explain how the college works. Let's take a look at that.
Judges come from all over the world to attend classes and seminars at the National Judicial College at the University of Nevada, Reno. Subjects include courses for the orientation of new judges, the updating of all judges on new legal developments, and preparation of experienced judges for new court duty assignments. The basic courses deal with court management, common problems, and the fundamentals that give new judges the competence to discharge their duties fairly, correctly, and efficiently. Intermediate and advanced courses keep judges up to date on recent law changes, new techniques, and alternative methods and solutions. Taken together, these courses comprise a judicial curriculum of career-long education, growth, and development. Of the 35,000 judges serving in the United States alone, more than 12,000 come to their courtrooms with no training in the law. Justices of the peace, many small claims court judges, and others find themselves sworn in and given the authority to dispense justice without ever having set foot in a law classroom. The National Judicial College is involved in grant and governmental training exchanges with many foreign countries, including emerging third world nations. Remarkable faculty, remarkable students. Where else could a group of appellate judges studying writing style have as a guest lecturer a United States Supreme Court justice and take part in the discussion of each word in the opening sentence of a landmark decision that the justice himself authored?
And all of those functions and more it still fills today. I know you like to think of the National Judicial College as a business. You say you have 6 products?
That's right. And I think any nonprofit that doesn't take a business attitude will find that they will meet a challenge, because you serve an audience. If you're the Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, you have an audience that you serve.
Right. If
you run a food bank, and so we have to see who our audience is, and we have to think of, is what we are producing a product meeting their needs? So we have choruses. That's one product. Do those choruses meet the need? Like, we have a course for new judges. They come here for 2 weeks, start from 0, get them up to a certain point of knowledge. At some point, they'll come back and take a course on logic and opinion writing, decision making, addressing implicit bias. So are those products, those courses, meeting their needs? We then have a seminar series for the judge that's been on the bench for a while. What is going to reinvigorate that man or woman after they've been on the bench for about 10 years, kind of reignite that fire, that passion that they had to become a judge? And we take them back to Washington, D.C., and we have a course called When Justice Fails. They go through the Holocaust Museum. They look at situations that have occurred in our country where the judges have not done what they're supposed to. One of my favorites is we take them out to Oregon for the Shakespeare Festival, and it's morality plays. And they get back down to the very moral fiber of deciding other people's issues. More learning occurs, and a real commitment to it. So that's another product. Then is our grant funded. Like, we got a grant to take a look at how sex offenders are being sentenced and managed in the country. And so we invited judges from around the country, and we put it into 3 zones. And the judges who came there looked at their statutes, their practices, and they came up with a plan to improve the sentencing of sex offenders, what was going to occur. They go back to their home states, including here in Nevada, and they come up with a new plan. We also then contract with the states. They may say, we don't have the money to do this program, but we've heard it's needed. We say, okay, let's do it. And for instance, addressing self-represented litigants. And we created a series of videos and vignettes, and we go in, and judges look at how they're communicating. Does the person understand what's going on? Do they feel they've been heard? It's a challenge when somebody represents themselves, but they have a right to. And the last one I want to bring in is where we work with other justice entities. We call them our collaborators, special and innovative. And we had this entity out of New York, the Center for Court Innovation. And they said, we're going to go into courts, and we're going to observe what they do. We're going to interview parties when they come out. Did they understand what happened? And we want you to create education for those judges afterwards, then we can present our research. And we did it in Milwaukee for the first one. And they just put it out for the second round, and they got 3 courts that they can do, and they got 27 courts applying. Could you imagine someone coming into your business saying, we're going to observe, we're going to see, okay, let's see, Brent, how did he come across to the audience? Did they like him? Did they understand? Did he connect with them? That's what we do for judges. And so we work with this other entity to do it. And the last one I want to mention is one that I think is really important. A international law enforcement entity came to us and said, we've been doing training of police officers on human trafficking. They are saying most of the courts don't really understand. They think it's simply a prostitution. They don't realize it's laborers that come in. And so we worked with them and put on a course, and we went around the country, and we've done 13 states now. Nevada just adopted 2 laws. One defining human trafficking, and the other one addressing the concern of victims. Because many courts think of the people that are involved, they don't think of them as victims, but they are, whether it's sex trafficking, whether it's labor trafficking. And so we created this course, and a month ago, thanks to our development director, Gretchen Sorer, who went out and got the money from Nevada Energy, we brought in 57 of the Justice Court judges here in Nevada. And they got to understand what these new laws were, how they see these cases coming in their court, what they can do for the victims, to link those victims up with the services so they won't be continually victimized.
How many judges do you touch in a given year, and how many of them come here to Reno?
We get about 2,000 come to Reno. We have about another 1,500 that we train at different sites around the country. And then this is the exciting part. We do about another 1,500 participate in web courses. That's a lot of judges. It's more than we had ever thought and hoped we can do when judges were just coming here. By using web technology, a judge can take a course on an issue that's evolving, sitting right at their desk. And it may be a victim's rights issue. Or it could be, how do you address a victim of a certain type of offense? They can get off the bench, go in, and they can sit there, and we make it very interactive for them. So we're able to take Nevada out all around the country. And we've even done these conferences and educations in Russia, Moldavia, all around the world. We went over to Liberia, and our folks trained Liberian judges and court administrators how to teach, how to be interactive, how to engage a judge. We did part web, then the judges went over to Liberia, met with them. So our reach is amazing. It isn't just judges coming here. That's important. They get to spend time with each other and they go home. But when I travel around the country, or the world for that matter of fact, I was just up in the northeast country, and somebody said, I want to introduce you to Judge Bill Dressel. He's president of the National Judicial College in the state of Nevada. I can't tell you the number of times I had the Chief Justice in Russia introduced me. He said, from the state of Nevada, from the great state of Nevada.
That's remarkable, not just from America. That is, well, that's good PR for all of us. Tell us a little bit about your background. You were a judge before you came here, and in fact, you came here as a student at the college, did you not?
I did. I hate to admit it, but it was 1979. And I was a trial judge in Fort Collins, Colorado. And Fort Collins, very similar to Reno. You know, we're a university town. They have Colorado State. We have University of Nevada here. And similar, Reno's gotten a little bit bigger. And so when I became a judge and I came here, one of the things, I went back to the state of Nevada, and the Chief Justice said, Bill, I know you really liked this education you had. What could we do in the state of Colorado to complement what occurs in Reno? So I and a group of judges created an educational entity in Colorado that took some of the education, because we couldn't send every judge here. And I got then involved in being requested to go to other states. And my specialty became court management, how to manage your court and your cases. But I did that because I came back to Reno, and they brought a group of judges together and said, we want you to be our ambassadors for case management. And I said, great, because this is important. At that time, and we're facing the same issue now in the justice system, we've lost the importance of time. And I mean, we have good judges in this country, good judges in this state. But somehow, the fact that it shouldn't take a year to year and a half for a case to go to trial, we've lost that sense of urgency.
Well, we all feel it in the outside world.
We absolutely do. And it was worse back in the 80s. And so we started this initiative going around. I can remember I went in the state of California for almost like 5 weekends in a row. And we did their whole state and got them to look at how they were managing their cases, why time was important. And so by having done that, I got to go around the country. My Chief Justice was very gracious about saying, we want you to do this. And so then I came out here to teach at the college. And when the opening came, they needed a president. I've been on the bench 22 years. Brent, I was worn out. 22 years of deciding people's disputes had taken its toll. I mean, I was looking for something different to do. And someone said, you ought to go talk to the folks at the Judicial College. And I got a call. I came out here. I interviewed with them. And I can remember they did one thing that I thought was absolutely outstanding.
What's that?
They created a local community that was chaired by somebody by the name of Bill Raggio. And they had Senator Raggio there. They had a representative from the governor's office, had local lawyers and people. They wanted to see, would I be comfortable in the state of Nevada? Would I fit in with the folks that were here? Would I understand the importance of the Judicial College and the state and that link? And I guess I must have convinced them yes, because they gave a strong recommendation. The board hired me.
And you've obviously passed the test since then if judges in Russia introduce you as being from the state of Nevada.
I think you're absolutely right. And it's really interesting. You know, we have a board of trustees of 18 folks. And one of the issues we always struggle with, yes, we're a national institution, but we're in Nevada. We've always had a strong contingent of Nevadans on our board. Right now, the chair of our board is a lawyer in Las Vegas, Mark Trados, Greenberg and Traug. He's internationally known in entertainment law, and he gives of his time. I can't imagine the cost if he was to bill us for his hours. Prior chair, John Frankovich, wonderful lawyer, runs his firm. And before that, we had Jan Berry, local judge. Deborah Augusti was a member of our board. And if you go and you look at all the people from, like Proctor Hug, Chief Judge of the Ninth Circuit, now sitting on senior status. I mean, I could go on and on. The people from Northern Nevada, Las Vegas, Brian Larson, who was both a lawyer and a CPA and general counsel for Boyd Gaming. You know, and then you look at nationally the folks that have been on our board. Alexander Sanders was former Chief Judge of the South Carolina Court of Appeals, but when he came to us, he was president of the College of Charleston. He brought such a different view, both as a judge who was responsible for a court and leading one of the top academic institutions in the country in that. And so we've been very fortunate to have these folks come here, give their time to the college. The board, if people say, well, Bill, you've done it. I said, no, I haven't done these things. The wonderful staff. We have a great staff that every day comes into work with energy, looking for what task to take. We have a board that's involved, and whether it's fundraising, whether it's making connections to with an entity or an agency, like one of the main things you hear about now is fracking, right?
Right.
Judge from Pennsylvania comes and says, I've got dozens of cases. And they said, I know the judges in Ohio, West Virginia, and New York are getting them. So one of our board members hooked us up with someone in the Department of Interior. And I said, look, I've got to have an education program. It has to be balanced. It can't be trying to sell something. Can you line me up with folks who will come and speak to judges and with them to explain what fracking is, and can also demonstrate what are the issues.
So you built a course around fracking.
And we did.
Let me ask you very quickly,
sure.
How would you sum up your own accomplishments and the accomplishments of the college over the past 50 years?
Well, what we've done is we have come up with a broad spectrum of education. We started out with what does a new judge know? And now we've got this broad spectrum of subject matters that judges will engage in. It helps them to, as I said earlier, to look at addressing their own biases. One of the major questions that I or other judges always asked, how can you be fair and impartial? Mm-hmm. You're presiding over a case. It's a horrible fact situation. And judges need to realize their biases. We all have them. We do the same thing with jurors when jurors come. And we do this voir dire, some people call it voir dire dance. I call it a process. But it's mainly to get people realize they have their own biases and prejudices, but they can't allow that to be the basis upon which they make a decision. So the accomplishment of the college has been this wide variety, from understanding fracking to understanding biases, being fair and impartial, how to engage folks so they understand what happened. Timely justice. We're still working on that one. We won't give up on it. And also to be a solid financial institution. We're good stewards of the money the state of Nevada or the government gives us. We're audited, and the Department of Justice has used us as a model.
That's outstanding.
It is.
I'm afraid we're going to run out of time, so I got to ask you,
sure,
what's coming up in the future?
I think the future is going to be saying the judicial system will change. Like anything, it has to change. I don't know if you've heard the story, and I've become kind of, people look at me odd, of were they going to shut the water down there in Maryland, D.C.? The infrastructure is 100 years old. Our roads are the same way. Our judicial system is the same way. It's built and based on premises that are long ago need to be. And what I see in talking with the Chief Justices, they're starting to say we need to create a modern court for modern times for the issues that are facing. The Judicial College will be an entity that will help the states address those new issues.
Well, we thank you for that. We thank you for your service there, and glad you're sticking around in Reno after your retirement.
Reno's has become our home. I'm going to stay here. Couldn't find a better place to live.
I agree with you there. Our guest has been the president of the National Judicial College, Bill Dressel, who is retiring as the college celebrates its 50-year anniversary. It's been great to learn of your accomplishments and the accomplishments of the NJC, and of those gems, it's really one of them that makes us all proud to live here. Thank you for being on the show, Bill. Enjoy your retirement here. Thank you for joining us for A Conversation.